and we are live.
Hi,
Yes,
everybody.
hello. My name is Diamond Rivera of Diamond Rivera Films, and we have another live discussions with Diamond. And today, I have a very special guest. Uh, without further ado, Mr. Jay. Can you please say your? Actually, you know what, Jay? I would love
Haile,
to
Haile,
introduce yourself.
Jae Haile Phillips, named after Haile Selassie. He was an Ethiopian president uh, um, back in the day. So I'm not Ethiopian, but my dad liked what he stood for. So he is. That's my name. So it's pronounced Haile.
Holly,
So people
yes, sir.
say Hail, but it's
Yeah,
Haile. Yeah, it's really with
Holly.
an accent over the E. There's an accent over the E.
Got you, absolutely, because from actually a previous interview I had, Haile Selassie was very integral in the Rastafarian movement. So
Yes,
I
yeah.
definitely have listened on that. But Jay, I appreciate you coming to this platform because with the many conversations I have with people, we hit a wide range of topics, and it's very important nowadays that we talk about all the topics that are like hitting us hard, hitting us in the media, but hitting us at home. So for now, I would love people to get an understanding who Jay is from the start of his dance journey, and then we can as well ease in later on to the topics that we want to discuss at hand.
No problem. Well, I actually I began. I was introduced to salsa and the Latin lifestyle late in life. So I was in my 20s. I was studying in Sydney, Australia, studying mechanical engineering. Um, I went out to a place and I saw this. I saw this young lady and young man dancing salsa, and I was actually in a hip hop club. And when I saw that, I was just like, wait a minute, whatever they're doing, that's
Yeah,
what I want to do for the rest of my life. And this
yes,
is my second to last semester as a mechanical engineer major. I was like, I don't want to be no engineer. So I did a lot of dancing out there to start. Came back, graduated from my school, Missouri Science and Technology, so engineering school in Missouri, and moved up to Minneapolis to be an engineer. I actually was an engineer, um, but salsa dancing was my passion. So I was taking some classes up there, and eventually my mentor asked me if I wanted to teach, and she would just groom me in, and eventually I put my 2 weeks in to my mechanical engineering job, and then I told my boss, hey, I want to be a salsa dance instructor. So, and that's where that started. So I quit my engineering job, making good
wow,
money, um, to follow my dreams to be a salsa dance instructor. So let me turn off my ringer. And so from there, I built up a big following in the Minneapolis, Minnesota area, and with my mentor, I really had a couple mentors. Tim Owens. It was a big. He was a manager of a Latin band up there, and Joy Davina. She owned a studio up there, so they really groomed me into starting my career, um, and then just became a sought after instructor up there. Built a following,
hmm,
um, and then I moved down to Florida in 2013
okay,
because my oldest son was down here. Before that, he moved from Minnesota to Florida, and I was flying back and forth once a
mhm.
month for 3 years
Oh wow,
to exercise my parenting time. So every month I was flying from Minnesota to Florida. Boom, boom. Until one day I just like, forget that. I need to live here. I don't know, it hit me later. I should have done it earlier, but it hit me later, around the time he was almost 4. And
hmm,
I eventually moved down here. I scrapped everything down here, or in Minnesota. I got rid of, and so I had to start from scratch here actually. And um, Erica Caliente, she's one of the pioneers in the Florida scene. She owns
okay,
Caliente Salsa Studio here in Tampa. I mean, she was the teacher for uh, Ataka. So there's video of
oh,
her, and he was the demo partner. She was the main teacher. So Erica, I give so much of credit to Erica. She was having a baby. She knew that I had experience with dance and having the dance business. So she entrusted me to co-direct her studio while she had a baby, so it kind of worked. It was a win-win situation for both of us. So when I moved down here, I actually had to, she offered me that position in her studio, but I still had to get a job as a server again. I had to start from scratch. I was flying back to Minneapolis because I would go there for a week or two at a time just to make money, come back down here. And then eventually I started my own. A lot of students just told me I should start my own because I was focused more on the serving aspect, just trying to get some money.
Yes.
So eventually I started in 2014. I started our location in Tampa. And then shortly thereafter, we had students coming up from Sarasota. So then Doreen, which is one of my longtime students, she was traveling from Sarasota to Tampa. So she's like, Jay, start something in Sarasota. So we started something in Sarasota that blew up pretty right away, actually. And then eventually the Minneapolis location that I was teaching at, that whole studio shut down. And that was the #1 salsa studio in Minneapolis. So that was an opportunity for me to start a location in Minneapolis. So we have 3 locations, Tampa, Sarasota, and Minneapolis. So I had teachers that I had already trained up there. And so I had them teach the class, so everything, just the internet, you can control everything now virtually. So I had my teachers, Shalina and Angela, even Hannah, who I trained personally. They're amazing teachers. They are teaching for me up there. So not too, so pretty quickly we had three locations pretty much nationwide, So that's kind of the very short, abbreviated story of how it came to be. Jae Phillips Dance Studio came to be. So and I've traveled all over the world teaching and do a lot of teacher training. That was the big thing that we were doing before COVID hit, instructor training. So when I was moving toward instructor training, the instructor training side of things, as far as my dance business is concerned, at that point. And then COVID hit, and so that sort of put a damper on things. And not many people are necessarily looking to be dance instructors because it's hard to be out there with social distancing, physical distancing.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's the abbreviated version of the trajectory.
I appreciate it because a lot of people have to understand the story of a lot of our dance instructors or dance studio owners, knowing that a lot of times they're not probably from that state, but are able to migrate and create like franchises, like you have one in Florida, Minnesota, and elsewhere. And it's very important that we see the term like the grind that you have to go through in order to create something, especially if you're passionate about it.
Yes.
And I think it's definitely commendable. And especially now during quarantine and COVID times, I really love to see that you yourself I've been seeing from, it's called the Scene Media members that you've been posting your classes online, because I think it is very important, even though a lot of us are not able to go into the studios, rightfully so, because again, things are very scarce, and especially in Florida, it's important still to give your students in the community dance in some shape or fashion. But also during these times, a lot of the issues that many of us people of color have been dealing with for decades is even coming more into the forefront. As a new decade approaches, it feels almost that the problem is still the same.
Right.
And I'm sorry, it's more or less, I feel that it's very important that with my platform, I'm able to speak to people that have legitimate concerns about their community. And it may not just deal with the dance community. We have dancers who, of course, are part of the dance community, but we, again, are human beings that have legitimate concerns about the people around us and the people that look like us, but also people who don't look like us. And, I really am thankful that we can have this discussion, because the topic that really hits home politically, socially, is the term of Black Lives Matter, the organization, the meaning.
Before we get there, I want to just give a shout out to my
Absolutely.
instructors who have been down with us. We have Stephen King, who was our instructor in Minneapolis. He's been holding it down up there, along with Joy, his partner Joy, Anna Maria here, Elizabeth Silic here, Samantha, who you see me in the videos. That's my girlfriend.
Okay.
She's holding it down. Bruni. I don't know if you don't know Bruni. I also have another assistant in the Philippines. Malia, was another Sarasota instructor. Angela, Shalina, they have their own businesses, but they've been instructors. Hannah was another one. So I just want to make sure I give, because we wouldn't even be where we are without the team that we had and still have. I still have to pay my assistants to put up the things they need to put up, and my students. We have a very strong following in every Minnesota and in Florida. So I'm very appreciative of my students, who I have a friendship with. It's not just being students. There's also a friendship with. We can debate. We've traveled to Costa Rica together. We travel to different places together. So JPDS wouldn't be anything without. Of course, L. Edwards. L. I don't know. You may see L's postal. L is my ace boon coon, but definitely L. But yeah, my students. So I just want to give a shout out. Make sure that they, because we wouldn't be the force that we are without the students and our staff and faculty too. So
absolutely. It's a big shout out, because it is important that you see where your brand has come from, but it wasn't just you; it was the people that believed in you and supported you.
The type A personalities.
Yes.
the organizers. I'm a type B learning to be type A. So they really held it down and make sure everything is make sure we are always on the up and up.
Absolutely. And again, it's important with these dance companies or these people that we come in contact with, is that, again, we do show them that love, we do show them that support, and it's platforms like this that, even though we're going to have discussions that for some people may seem uncomfortable, it's needed. And more than ever, with a lot of us staying at home, again, we kind of collect our thoughts, and these are the moments that we can really inform people about our truths, about our experiences. And it's definitely, I know that when we do get back to dancing, it is going to be a new normal, and we're going to be seeing people that we haven't seen in months. But it is also important that these people realize that no matter what stance we are, we should always respect one another. And
absolutely, very important.
So for me, with today, I really want to kind of gauge. I want, from your standpoint, what do you feel really your main concerns during these times?
You know what? Honestly, I honestly feel that things are better. Things, just because they're coming to the light doesn't mean that it's getting worse. Because these things, as far as the systemic racism is concerned, always has been an issue. That's always been an issue. Now it's coming to the light. So in reality, I'm not concerned per se. I do have, don't get it twisted, I do got concerns, but for the most part, I think the trajectory is going up. I think the consciousness is raising because of all of these things that are happening. So now that people are just more upfront about what they feel, especially a lot of white people are like, look, all lives matter, all lives matter. Well, they're more frank about what they say, and we more frank about what we say.
Yes.
So it seems as if there's more tension, and there might be a little bit more tension in some ways, but in some ways, I'm able to have conversations with Trump supporters or people who may come off as racist. I'm able to have the conversations and share with them a perspective that they would have never gotten.
Yes.
So in that way, I feel that things are really going up. Some people say, "Oh, well, the world is going to hell in a handbasket," but you know, I implore them to try to look at it differently. That no, everything is everything. You know, we also have what I call the white awakening. A lot of white people are like, "Wow, I never really knew about this stuff for real." You know, now I really know. So, so that's a good thing. You know, that's a good thing. You know, and they're still gonna ask questions that, you know, some people, like some of my Black friends, will attack them. You know, which is understandable. You know, again, Black people have the right to feel defensive and upset and frustrated. And so I understand to speak like, look, this person should have Googled this question. Like, don't be asking these dumbass questions. They should have Googled it. Well, I mean, yeah, I agree. They should have Googled it. But how many people are going to Google? You know, I admit I live in America. I don't know much about the Native American culture. I should probably Google it. Right? I agree with that. But most likely, most of us aren't going to Google it. So I'm going to answer the question as best as I can for them. So, you know, like in my Facebook, you know, you got, you know, depending on what I post, you get the white people getting mad at me, calling me a racist, or you get the Black people saying you a white apologist or Black apologist, and you pandering to the white people. No, I'm answering their questions. I'm choosing to answer their questions. I'm not telling them to Google it. I'm going to post it so they can see it, because I know they probably ain't going to Google it. Just like, you know, so I'm going to be patient enough to teach them. Now, if they continues to still be ignorant, okay, that's what they want to do. But I'm not going to jump on their throat. And then the same for the white people. Just because I'm posting stuff about, like, okay, George Washington owned slaves, so we should probably change the dollar bill, or that's an example of systemic racism. We are passing along the picture of a slave owner everywhere we go. You know, and white people get really upset at that. How can you say that? Well, it's truth. You know, you could be upset, but that's the truth, right? So I'm okay with catching any flack. You know, I feel like I've said before, I'm a strong enough person. I'm strong enough in my self-confidence to handle it. You know, even if I'm the only one doing it, that's okay. You know, but I'm speaking from my heart. You can speak from your heart. You know, and on my page, I don't allow people to just say some reckless stuff. I just delete it. If they say something disrespectful, I don't even tell them. I just look, delete. I'm deleting that comment. Because I ain't gonna have you on my page talking ignorant. But if you want to contribute intellectually, even if your opposite views, I want you to. That's what I want. But if you come in there calling people names, you're getting deleted instantly. Like, well, I'm not going to even tell you. You're just going to wonder why I can't see my comment on your page. Well, don't talk reckless. You know, my page ain't a democracy. You know, and I've realized through this that a lot of people, at least in my circle and even beyond, nationwide, are reading these discussions. They're reading these discussions. It's not, you know, I'm thinking I'm just talking to my little friends. No, people are chiming in, reaching out to me separately from all over the country, chiming in on the situation, on the, you know. So I'm now become aware that, okay, let me monitor, just like you probably monitor your page. You know, you make sure things are respectful. You know, you even though you may disagree with, like, Dominic, you may disagree with them, but you guys came to a respect. I saw the interview. You guys reached a frequency of respect after a little bit of a tension. But you got there, right? So that's okay. You know, we can have different views about that. You know, now one thing I don't agree with is the bullying. You know, people bully people. So, you know, and I'm a bully to the bullies. That's my personality. So if I feel like you bullying somebody, well, I'm gonna come bully you, because you shouldn't be bullying people. So, like, you know, Dominic, he shouldn't have said that word as a dance instructor, studio owner, because it's inflammatory. You know, I wouldn't write that word out in public. You know, just if you're a leader of the community, have some level-headedness, which I think he understood. But he's also passionate. You know, he's a passionate guy. But after listening to him, I didn't jump. I tried not to jump to conclusions. When I first saw the word, I was like, who the fuck in 2020 is going to write that word on public? Who would do that? I was the same way. Like, I wasn't even mad. I was just like, why would he do that? Like, that's not a good idea. And, you know, but then I understood, oh, okay, English isn't his first language. So he might be writing something that is just not his first language. And then that was my hypothesis. Then I heard him talk. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this dude just as black as me. Yeah. You know, I say the N word. I don't say it as much anymore. I substitute the word nigga for ninja. But I can't get mad at this dude because he say it like I say it, like he just as black as me. Like, I understand, we can jump down his throat, hold him accountable, but let's also use our critical thinking and be like, okay, wait a minute. Clearly, he wasn't using it like a racist redneck would use it. You know, he was just miswrote it. I remember, I don't speak great Spanish at all, but I would mistake the word huelos and huevos. When one is ice and one means eggs. And so I would ask for eggs when I really meant, one mean balls, I think too, you know, right? So I would ask for ice, but I would accidentally say balls. And they would, people would laugh at me. So I understood that. And that's why I was the first, even on your page, I was like, look, as an African-American man, I'm going to forgive him. I'm going to forgive him. You know, I wanted to set an example of a spirit of forgiveness. In this case, look, it was deserved. Oh, I'm not just going to forgive any old body, you know, no, not necessarily. I mean, I would like to, but if it had been a different usage, I would have been just as mad as the next person. But I wanted to make sure I set a precedent of forgiveness, because clearly he wasn't trying to be derogatory in the way that it first came out in my mind. Is what I gathered from your interview with him. Yeah. So, sorry, go ahead. It looked like you.
No, I'm sorry. No. Especially from that interview, what I did was I looked at the totality of that conversation, and I was realizing that the usage of that word wasn't needed at all. When you can tell me that your English isn't that great, it kind of contradicts, because if I've seen your other posts on other things you are passionate about, and it has clear English, and you know the language you're using, especially if it's coming from a political standpoint, that you're pushing your narrative, which you have all the right to, at that moment, you can't tell me you don't understand the usage of that word. Because again, when you have a business, you are a reflection of your business. Correct. And mind you, there were people that actually called me who were friends of his to explain it was the old school mentality that came out.
Right.
I understood. The difference was I was going to have that public discussion with him to get a further understanding, because unfortunately, the people that he had this conversation with, he never fully had the full conversation with them to explain what he meant.
Right.
So the thing was, it took me having to go on a public platform to get you to admit that you did something wrong and to take responsibility for it. And to not, because again, we understand people will use the term privately with their friends. We completely understand it. But you have to realize that you are responsible for the words you put on the internet.
Social media.
Yes, on social media, the first word is social. So again, you know that when you have told in your own personal videos, not you, but this gentleman, that, you know, I have someone that looks over my writing before I put it out. So if I'm hearing that, but then you're writing this, then there's something wrong, or maybe it was the raw emotion coming out of you. Right. But also you could have taken the initiative to call them or privately message them. Right. Before this incident happened. For me, like you said, we were able to come to a frequency at the end of the day, because all I wanted was a person to take accountability, responsibility, to apologize to these gentlemen that honestly did not deserve those kind of words, because again, even when it's political, you can have a political standpoint without using racially insensitive, no matter what color you are. It's not saying that you're a racist. No,
Right.
you're using racially insensitive language that's going to cite something.
Yeah, and that's one, and I agree as far as that's concerned, and that's one thing that I train my instructors on is, look, you don't, some take my advice, some don't, but you monitor, and me as the owner, and I tell all my instructors, look, we don't get into the little tit for tat beefs that go on, try to stay out of that stuff. And monitor what you say, and when you see my rhetoric, I'm always respectful. I may call you out, but I'm not going to call you names. I'm not going to call you names. I may be relentless in my question and my stance, but I'm not going to call you names. And you don't have to call me names. You can still disrespect me, or not just disagree. Just don't disrespect me. Which is, if you want to disrespect me, that's fine too. I'm just going to delete your comment. That's,
exactly. Instead of trying to go back and forth.
And I'm like, right. You know what? Now I got the reason why I'm so vocal now on social media, because we're quarantining. So I'm all over it. But before I didn't really have time for none of that back and forth. Now I could spend a whole day on social media back and forth arguing with people about Black Lives Matter versus Black Lives Matter 2. I can do that. But yeah, it's very important as an owner and a leader of the community to be mindful at how you present yourself. Not for him, I think he was just passionate. Well, Trump supporters are very passionate. They love Trump, right? They love Trump.
They
so
are.
And people non-Trump supporters say really bad things about Trump supporters.
Absolutely.
So let's be clear. It's not just Trump supporters. Non-Trump supporters are very mean to Trump supporters and Trump. So of course he's going to be defensive, but at the same time, monitor, like you said, what you're putting out there, for the world to see. Be careful about that.
No, absolutely, because like you were saying earlier, when you have white people on your platform or friends on Facebook that have concerns about what you say, and people who are Black or people of color that have stuff they want to say, we have to realize is that before we start speaking, we have to start thinking. Because again, a lot of times what happens is when it comes to things that you don't agree with and you're so passionate that the substance gets lost, the message gets lost in what you're trying to convey. Again, like for me, being a progressive liberal from New York City, having a discussion with a Trump supporter when we didn't even get into politics, but I could see he was pushing politics in it, and I had to constantly push it out because that's a different discussion for a different day. My thing is, I wanted that discussion because I didn't want to allow his supporters and his friends and the people who believe just like him to say that a person like myself, a progressive liberal, shut you out because that was what you wanted, but that wasn't what I was going to give you. And when it does come to topics of Black Lives Matter, for me, my honest opinion, I can let you know and the world know, I believe that Black Lives Matter. I believe that all lives matter, but all lives cannot matter if Black lives don't matter.
Yes.
And again, we have to realize is like the discussion on the inner city violence that we'll get to, everything ties into itself, because we have to understand this is all a trickling down effect. And for me, what happens is I see on social media a lot of people who are not informed on the topics that they feel that they're so passionate about. They're literally just sharing posts sometimes, and they don't really read the post. And then you just have someone comment like, "What do you mean? Do you agree with this?" And sometimes people are like, "Oh, I didn't really read. I just read the headline, but I didn't read the full article." And I think most importantly, people have to do again is think before they type, but also become more informed. Like you said, you weren't that informed about the Native American history, but it's
I'm
also
still
because
not. I should be more.
absolutely. But the thing is, because we have to realize in our school systems throughout the nation, we weren't being taught this. We were not. And we can't, as we get older, we're no longer in those schools, even in colleges, even in high schools, even in middle schools. I didn't hear anything about the Tulsa massacre
Right.
until after college.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I realized that was a disservice to me, to my education. There was so
Right.
much that was being left out of our books. But again, we can't just say we were naive as people of color. The people who aren't of color were also naive because
Right.
the way they grew up, a lot of them, no matter where you're from, maybe lacked that knowledge. Their parents didn't teach them. Their school system didn't teach them throughout the years. So
Mm-hmm.
as we got older, in times like this, when we're kind of all in the house, these are the perfect times to speak. These are the perfect times to gather as much information because what's happening now, and it's really tough because we're going through a pandemic, but we're also going through a lot of violence in our communities that we still have always has never stopped. So on
Right.
top of the violence we're going through a pandemic. So we have people now when it comes to Black Lives Matter, oh, they have these protests. But I tell you this is a very big contradiction. I remember, do you remember when they had the Michigan protests?
What you mean when? Like
Not the
recently
Black,
or
yes, not the Black Lives Matter. It was the people that had stormed the Michigan Capitol building.
because of the pandemic?
Yes. And
Yeah.
the thing was, you saw there's a big difference between a lot of the protests we're seeing of the social aspect of Black Lives Matter, and then you have these people with loaded weapons inside of a Capitol building, but the coverage seems different. The
Mm-hmm.
message seems different.
Mm-hmm.
But then people have to say, what about if the situation was turned around?
Right.
How would we perceive it then? It's the
100%.
it's the information.
Exactly. Exactly. And actually, one of my students posted a video, a picture of in Georgia where they walking. There's a bunch of a black militia walking around with AKs or AR-15s. In the words was like they're marching right here in Georgia now, but they might be in your neighborhood next. Like, you trying to start a race riot? I was like, and I told her like, white people have been doing this forever. She said,
Yeah.
prove it. I still haven't had a chance to hear the tons of pictures with people
Yeah.
with guns, but but at the same time, she can't help it.
Yeah.
She only know what she know. Like
Yes.
she, and every black person has the right to be mad at her, including me, or just annoyed. But at the same time, she only knows what she knows because like you said, the media will see the media will send you what they want you to know. That's what I wrote. I saw a quote that I posted. The truth isn't told; it's learned.
Yes.
And so I tell people, don't only watch the media 5 minutes a day at the most, because that's all you really need to know. If it's really serious, you're gonna find out. Your phone's gonna tell you if a nuclear bomb getting shut, somebody coming. Your phone's gonna tell you what you need to know when you need to know it, if it's for real, for real.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, you don't really need the media, in my opinion. This is my opinion.
Absolutely.
But yeah, now as far as the Black Lives Matter, so that's kind of where I think we linked up, because I was posting about. I noticed one thing that I noticed was that, oh, wait a minute, white people think people are saying Black Lives Matter only, where black people are meaning, look, Black Lives Matter too. Like, we matter as well as you do. And when I posted that, a small handful of my black friends was going in at me, acting like I'm pandering to the white people. No, I'm not pandering. I'm explaining, because clearly they didn't know that we meant Black Lives Matter as well, or too.
Yes.
Right? So I was just like try to carefully explain to them, like, this is what matters. And many, even Trump supporters, white friends, was like, oh, I didn't know that. Now I know. That's good to know, because I'm up here thinking y'all was only thinking Black Lives Matter.
Exactly.
That's why I keep saying all lives matter. Because you keep saying Black Lives Matter. I'm like, well, no, all lives matter.
Yeah.
We're looking at the same elephant, but at a different angle.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the same thing, but I'm on the right side of the elephant, you on the left side of the elephant. We trying to describe what we see to each other, or I'm in the front of the elephant, you in the back of the elephant.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to describe to you what I see, and you don't see that, so you just think I'm wrong. And the other person, I'm trying to describe to you what I see, but you don't see that, so you think I'm wrong. We're not understanding that we're actually looking at the same elephant. In many cases. Now, don't get it twisted. There's tons of people who are racist, and they don't want to have shit to do with Black lives or Black people. Like, look, don't give me that crap anyway. I ain't trying to hear none of that. So I know those people exist.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree, because no matter if you live in Florida or you live in New York, we have come across those type of people. The difference, I would say now more than ever, is a lot more people are not now being quiet. More people are confronting that ignorance head on. And the big word is ignorance, because as you said earlier, you had people who are Trump supporters who were ignorant to the message that people from the Black Lives Matter movement were trying to simply get across, because it's a game of telephone. The message is clear in the beginning, but once it finishes to the end, it's almost a different, complete message.
Correct.
But it takes you having to have that conversation with that person. If you're not knowledgeable, just like you go to a library to pick up books to learn, you need to now have those conversations with people in order to learn what you do not know. Because if you don't know, you won't grow.
Correct.
For me, I have to say is that a lot of times the people who have these racist beliefs, I met them. I'm also in the military. I've met them in the military. But absolutely, I've met them head on. I was stationed in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and being in the barracks with people. Being in the barracks, nothing is worse. It felt like jail, and I mean this in the most straight up way. For 2 months stuck in a barrack or a room with 40 other men that you never met them in your life. They come from all walks of life, but a lot of them were ignorant to the language they were using, and realizing that they, like we say, the First Amendment, the freedom of speech aspect, a lot of them were protected because they used certain language that they knew would infuriate a lot of us as people of color, but didn't realize was that, how hurtful it can be, and it's not a joke. But I've also met a lot of upfront. I met the people who are kind of ignorant to speaking in certain languages and mocking people and just being derogatory. But I met those that were straight up front and told you how they felt and didn't like you and had Confederate flags. And I was the one out of many soldiers that would talk to them individually. I'm not going to agree with you at all, but I'm going to listen to you so you can say at least one person did.
Right, that's huge.
But at the same point, I did let them know, and there was a story of, there were many times that I stopped racial fights within. So in the military, we're seen as a family, but there are many soldiers who are racist. And the thing is, we have to realize, and I had to let a lot of those people know who are racist in my unit or in my time there, was I'm saving you from a world of hurt you can get from about 5 or 10 people. Because again, our unit or our platoon was a lot more people of color than not. And for me, being kind of that mediator and being that person that said, hey, I'm not going to allow you to say anything you want here. I'm going to save you for now, because this is a lesson learned. Because again, nowadays, people are not going to just talk anymore. You have to understand is that, and I learned this in the military, it was that you cannot stop someone from reacting a certain way. Meaning is, you may say something small to someone, maybe it's a joke, but you can't tell them how to react to that joke.
Right.
So the words you use, no matter how offensive or not you may seem it to be, you can't tell that person how to react. If you say something racially insensitive and somebody punches you in the face, I'm sorry they punched you in the face, but that was their reaction. You can't tell them, I need you to react this way. And that was something like, even as a civilian, but even in the military world, that was two worlds that I had at the same struggle. And being of a biracial mixed family,
what's your mix?
I'm actually African American, Puerto Rican, and Polish and Hungarian.
Oh wow, dang.
And for me, and when people hear that, they're like, yeah, like you said, but for me, it's like I was raised to always accept what I was in totality. Because so many people would say, if you were Puerto Rican and black, for instance, I'm just black or I'm just Puerto Rican. But I accepted it because that's what I grew up around. People, my grandma who was white, my mom who was mixed, my dad who was Puerto Rican, and they embraced it. And I realized over the years that a lot of people never fully embraced themselves. They were following what they knew, but didn't know who they were. You know,
wow. Yeah.
And the biggest thing is that, especially in our own communities, whether it be Florida, New York, Chicago, St. Louis, Minnesota, we all deal with the same issues. We do. It's really more or less of how we go about them. A lot of times people, like you said, at one point in your life, when we didn't have this quarantine, those comments, you just fall by the wayside because you were so busy and doing your own thing. But now we're kind of faced with that reality because it never left. It's just that now we're at home and now we have more time.
Right. Which is ironic. It's ironic how the universe will work, you know. Now with the Black Lives Matter situation, you know, I caught flack for some of my white friends and black friends, but then more like, so getting to the inner city violence situation, I got one day I saw the headline that a 3-year-old boy was shot in the head, shot in the back and killed. And this 3-year-old boy was killed in the exact neighborhood that my sister lives in. Like, she teaches kids. He would have been in her class had he lived longer. Literally, she would have taught him. So when I saw that, and the ironic thing, it was in the midst of huge Black Lives Matter protests in Chicago, well, all over the world, but in this case, on one side of town, you protesting George Floyd's death.
Yes.
But then this little baby, and I got a 4-year-old son. So, and the boy who was killed looked kind of like my son, or like a child that's in my family. Like, I'm like, wait a minute. Now, I agree with Black Lives Matter, and I agree with the angle of we need to get rid of the racial injustice in the police system and the judicial system, and just in general, racial inequities. However, we still had a black boy. It was multiple kids killed. I'm just focusing on the 3-year-old because that's close to my 4-year-old. So it was multiple kids. So I was like, wait a minute, this baby was killed by another black person. Now, this is where you're gonna see me get passionate, because this is where I am gonna get something. Is that you got black people, and like, I'm not afraid. Like, on my page, I'm not afraid to call out white people, and I'm not afraid to call out black people. And right now, in this case, you got black kids killing other black kids, not just in it was a boy in St. Louis this weekend got shot in the head. A little boy. He didn't die. I don't think so. He wasn't there when I last looked it up. But the little boy got shot in the head, same age. A 20-month-old got shot and killed the weekend after in Chicago. And it was 104 shootings in Chicago.
Yeah.
And 24 people died between black and brown, Latin, Mexican, or not just Mexican, Latin, and blacks. There was actually a little gang war in Chicago, but largely it's black on black. And so, and it was the most bizarre thing to me. The most bizarre thing is when a black person like me or someone else will mention, look, we got black kids killing other black kids. Why aren't we upset? Where's your post about that? I looked on several of my black friends who are deep in the Black Lives Matter, and they are deep pro-black. They work with black kids. I will look on their posts. I'll go back a week or two. All of them are racial inequity posts, which I understand. So are mine. But now one of them posted anything about the kids. I understand adults getting shot, but I don't really understand it. But the kids getting shot and killed, you ain't saying nothing. As a matter of fact, when I say something about it, you gonna get on my head about it. You gonna get on my head because I'm calling you out for not doing anything about it. Like, I'm not saying I'm good much about it. I've donated money. I haven't done, but now it's my new mission to figure out what to do. And this is what people come back and say to me. They say, look, Jae, even my most well-educated black friends, look, Jae, this is because of racial inequities in the system already, in the systematic oppression, which causes the violence within the inner city. I'm not denying that. But what are we going to do about this 3-year-old that just got killed? Okay, I understand we need to work, we need to change the system. They say that the killing is a symptom of this racial inequity. Okay, I agree with that. I'm not denying that. But what are we going to do? What is our immediate action plan to save these kids from getting killed today? Because in order to change the racial inequity in the whole system, that means we have to rely on white people, which is great. And a lot of white people are getting behind it. But that's like making a U-turn with a cruise ship. How long that's going to take for a cruise ship to do a full U-turn? How many more babies got to get killed while we change the system? We need a self-sustaining program that white people don't have to be a part of if they don't want to. They're still going to work and save our black kids immediately. Now, I don't know the answer yet. I've been blessed to learn that a lot of my black friends already have organizations. Now I'm highlighting, and once a week, I'm highlighting different, if you could put this on here.
Absolutely.
The village314.com is a one that my friend Keenan Morris, who I went to college with, he takes young black males, teach them, spiritual, educational, just general guidance on how to be healthy citizens to society. So literally, he's saving lives. He's saving black lives by creating this cohort and more of young men. They recently just went around knocking on the neighborhood doors, checking on people during the pandemic. Something as simple as that can raise the consciousness of people. We can multiply his organization for every city. That would be an excellent way to help save the youth. So the week before, I had my friend in Chicago. His website was Made. I got to look it up. Can you look up Made Men organization in Chicago? See what come up. Don't put it there. I'm gonna get the website. So yeah, right. Drew Thompson said it all starts with education. Yes, it's indoctrinating the kids with a new way of thinking. I talked to my sister who, like I said, worked in it. She's like, look, Jae, what these kids don't understand is they have options. They think all they got is the drug dealing and the killing, and they don't realize they can have real estate investing. They don't realize they could be a professor. They don't. They literally don't know this. So I'm right now doing my. I'm a baby in this. Compared to a lot of people, I'm just a baby. I'm just starting. So, but my goal is to create some sort of organization that's going to be as fashionable as Black Lives Matter. And I say fashionable because I'm glad Black Lives Matter is fashionable, but it's so fashionable to put Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. It's I hate to say it, it's a trend. I'm glad it's a trend, but it's Black Lives Matter. It's not enough. We need something to stop these kids from getting killed by our own people. Now let's not get it twisted. What the white people need to know, this don't happen. Both Black people ain't killing each other. It's a small segment of the population that's doing it. It's not a lot. So white people a lot of times are thinking, well, these Black people is killing each other all over the place. No. It's a very small concentrated subset of individuals that are killing, right? So we need to target that small subset of individuals and figure out what is the problem. Now, the biggest problem is the snitching, the don't snitch, right? You heard the snitches, which is actually influenced because of the mistrust of the police. Exactly. We don't trust the police, so we're not going to tell the police about JJ who killed Bun Bun. Yeah, we finna just go kill him ourselves. Exactly. So now we got this ricochet of bullets going back and forth, and unfortunately, 20-month-old and 3-year-old kids are in the crossfire. That's the problem. Yes. Now we could take all the gangsters, go buy a piece of land, and you put some houses on it. It's like, look, y'all can go have y'all gang war over there. Okay, I mean, I don't want that, but if that's that's a silly idea. But shit, I mean, something got to be done. We need the celebrities to get behind this. We need the NFL. We need big corporations to get behind to stop the violence. I'm glad that they're behind the Black Lives Matter. Don't get it twisted. But we need something that Black and brown people can create that we can use on our own and not rely on white people. We still in the trying to convince white people phase that, hey, Black Lives Matter. We're still in that phase of convincing them. Some are convinced, many more need convincing, right? So, which again, that's not an immediate solution. We need something. So that's why I start posting organizations that I know about, that I'm friends with these people who actually have, like Keenan's village314.com. I think it's actually .org. I think it's .org. Yeah.
Yes, definitely let me know so I can correct that.
So my biggest pet peeve is my educated Black brothers and sisters who I personally know. Most of my Black friends are educated with high degrees, making 6 figures or higher, right? And they are very smart, but they still are not on board as much with stopping the violence as they are with the Black Lives Matter. That's my hashtag that I put is I'm piggybacking off the All Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter when all Black lives matter. Black Lives Matter when all Black lives matter. Because right now it seems to be we care about when the police kill us, which we should, but 90% of this is a statistic, 90% of the Black people getting killed are killed by Black people. Now somebody gonna say, well, white people, 80% of white people killed by white people. Yeah, but I'm not talking about white people right now. I'm talking about Black people. Absolutely. I understand that white people kill each other too, but I'm talking about Black people right now.
Yes.
Right? So the other foundation in Chicago is mademanfoundation.org, www.mademanfoundation.org. If you don't mind putting, like in your write-up, putting those
mademanfoundation.org, correct?
Mademanfoundation.org. If you can put this in, like when you post this, put those websites in there.
Absolutely. We're going to put village314.org and mademan.
Is it .com or .org? Okay, so it is village314.com.
Okay, I'll definitely have that in the listing for sure, description. And I'll tell you this is one quote that I think will completely help people understand why a lot of those people you said that are in these sectors, they're lawyers, that are professionals, that make six figures. It would really make you understand is, you ever heard of the term or the quote, when it affects them, it affects them?
Right. Yes.
Because a lot of times when that situation does not hit close to home,
Mm-hmm.
I am naive to it.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean I don't care.
Right.
When that situation is not hitting me in my core, I'm not as passionate because, again, a perfect example when it comes to Native Americans and the treatment that has happened to their to their homes, whether it be like belt lines and pipelines. A lot
Right.
of us agree with them, but we
Yeah.
don't have all the information and we don't live near them, so it's not as important to us as what's happening in our inner city or what's happening with police brutality. And for
Right.
me, I don't want people to make the excuse, like you said, of with a lot of people who aren't a people of color saying, oh, but you guys are killing each other. And then we have to kind of sub that with, no, but it's also in your community too. Again, it is a problem that we know about. Just like in New York City, I forgot the gentleman's name, but he was 17 years old, graduated out of high school, next day got killed, shot in his neck and got killed.
This
He
was
literally
recently or a while?
recently. This is probably in
Is
the
this the
last.
one that was walking with his daughter?
No, this is even before that.
Mm.
The one that was walking with his daughter, I know the area perfectly. I'm from Harlem, but I definitely know the Bronx very well. In Harlem, stuff like this happens in the Bronx and Queens, Staten Island, Brooklyn, everywhere. It does not matter. We all deal with these issues. The biggest thing too is like you were giving the example of taking these gangbangers and putting in here. But I want you to think about this is a lot of those gangbangers that do go to jail and have no rehabilitation, as they call it, a rehabilitation center. You come out and you actually are more worse than when you came in.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, a lot of times, all we're doing really is just giving them temporary housing with 3 meals, but nothing else.
And a traumatic experience.
And a traumatic, yes, a traumatic experience. So when you come out, a lot of them, people that I've talked to, even said, I just learned how to become a better criminal.
Mm-hmm.
There was no change for me. I just stood for a few months or a few weeks or a few years, and I came right back into the neck of things. Because again, all of that stuff is wrong. But then when we go deeper into it and say, like you said, your sister says, these people have these resources. But a lot of times these same people will say, where? Because when I do fill out those job applications, they turn me down. You say they don't, but I'm there filling it out. When I put I have a felony, they automatically cut me off.
Mm-hmm.
When, for me, it is a huge problem in our community, the violence that goes on with one another. Because again, you see the thing is this, when it comes to, like you said, before you started researching, you were wondering, where are these same people that have these protests for Black Lives Matter when the police brutality, and then when a kid gets shots in their neighborhood or around the block from them, there's not so much coverage. The thing is also the media makes you believe that there's no coverage. Because I'm the same one researching and seeing there's a person from Chicago who's an editor that went to a protest. There are photos of a kid that got shot and their family's outside with the rest of the whole block and beyond. And the thing is, I think more organic grassroots media needs more push than ever.
Yeah, I think that's a great. I never thought about the grassroots media aspect of that. Yeah, something like that. I like that idea. There's something because you can't with today's technology, you can really become something really fast with the media. So you're right. So if we can get some people on the ground covering that stuff and posting it and making it viral, I think that's a huge, because I'm all about anything against mainstream media. I'm all about it because I don't trust mainstream media, period. That's how Trump got elected in the first place. We all thought Hillary was going to win. We all woke up in the morning, Trump goddamn president. We like, what the hell? How that happened? We were shocked. Right, we was shocked. We knew right where we was at when we found out.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but you're exactly right, because I actually work across the street from Trump Tower, and I work with people in Bergdorf Goodman that knew Donald Trump, that were personal friends with him. But they themselves, we would have those conversations, and they knew already what was going to happen. They were teaching me. It was me being naive to the fact of thinking that, because remember, is that, say for instance, you live in Florida, so if it's mainly Republican, or say for instance, it was mainly Democrat, and that city voted Democrat, a lot of times you live in that area and you only think, wow, they voted that way, so it must be the same.
Right.
It's not. Places like New York voted Democrat, but a lot of places in New York, North Country, other places voted Republican. But overall, as a state, it voted for Hillary. But we are just one of many other states.
Right. Right. Florida's a mix. Florida's very mixed. Although what's interesting is Minneapolis is a very progressive city, right? People don't realize Minneapolis is super progressive, very liberal city. And so, matter of fact, before all of this happened, George Floyd, you go to Minneapolis and you see white people wearing Black Lives Matter shirts. Like, you don't see that in Florida. You don't see nobody in Florida with Black Lives Matter, black or white. You don't even see it.
Ah,
You don't even now. I mean, sometimes you might see a little bit. In Minneapolis, it was, Minneapolis is a white city. It's a very white city, but they're very social injustice conscious. So,
yes.
so they can't even. I talk to my Minneapolis friends, and I'm like, yeah, half of my students are Trump supporters. Like, and they're just like, wow, like they ain't even met a Trump supporter. They're like, tell me about that.
Yeah, it's a new experience.
Normal. We went to Costa Rica together and kicking it, eating good food, laughing and joking. They're like, wow, really? Like, it's you like. So you're right to your point. It matters what environment you're in. It matters what environment you're in, and it affects how you think things were supposed to be. But I don't think Trump even knew he was going to be elected. He came off the stage looking like,
yeah.
elected.
And then the funny thing about that was that even with people who were close to him said he only did this. He didn't care if he was going to win or not. It was more for the publicity of his brand. And
right. That's what I was thinking.
A lot of people, I've been to Florida. I've been to those places that a lot of people of color choose not to go to. I've been in those areas, and I know what a lot of people in those areas believe. And a lot of times those were the people that helped elect him because they felt that they were never being heard. And that voice was never being appreciated. And they felt for that moment, that person could reach them.
Right.
But forward 3+ years later, and you see a lot of these people are still in the same rut. A lot of these people are still going through the same thing. And with COVID happening, quarantine, and now with Black Lives Matter, all these people are at home and really just like struggling to make sense of things. But I think a really important point was something that we talked about privately is that you yourself actually met George Floyd when you were in Minneapolis.
Yeah. And I he would just work the door. So it's not like I knew him.
Yeah.
But and it took my cousin to tell me to Jay, you know exactly who the dude is. My cousin knew him more than I did. But he was like, he worked at Conga. He worked at I was like, yeah, I remember that dude. So I never really thought about it, but I knew I interacted with George Floyd, which is kind of crazy, being that he's now one of the most important civil rights name that's going to be in the history books, right? So yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, now as far as the Trump, the one thing that people may or may not realize about Trump and the good that he brought is that more people are active, more women are involved, more women of color are in politics, are taking positions, being judges, being district attorneys. They was like, Trump didn't got elected. Let me get my ass up and do something about this. So that is a good thing that I don't think would have happened as much if Hillary was president. Now, Hillary being a woman would definitely be inspirational, but I think the fear of Trump being president sparked a fire up people's butt. It was like, wait a minute, I need to do something about this.
Yes.
So that, would we have as many African American women in positions of power and or men or Latin or Native Would we have that if Trump wasn't there? That's a question to ask ourselves. I think that's important to ask. And so which one do we want? Would we rather have Hillary and not have those people be a part of our whole political system? Or do we want Trump and have him cause an influx of these people who otherwise may not have been in our system? Now we got moms controlling the decisions about the black and brown and white bodies in the court system. That's important to have a mother, a matriarchal mentality when it comes to things like that. So we got to kind of, try to look at the silver lining if you can. If you can't, that's okay, no problem.
Well, I definitely agree, because I am absolutely not a Trump supporter, and I will tell everyone. I speak to people who are. I try to understand their mind, or not really understand, but I intend to listen. Because I don't want you to feel shut out. And I really do believe that what Trump did is he awoken the problems that we were already having, intensified them, and made us react to them. Because a lot of times the same issues we were having now, we were having 5+10 years ago, but it was kind of swept under the rug in a sense. It wasn't as magnified as it is now. But what we realize is that we have a person in our federal government that truly, he says he is not a politician. So he really does not have that much knowledge. He's running off of the same thing that a lot of us run off of while we write, is emotion.
Right.
He runs off the emotion, what he feels he is going to write and type that day, and he presses send. And the thing is, a lot of the stuff that he writes is detrimental and harmful, because again, he is not, whatever he writes and whatever he does and puts into action just does not affect him. It affects everyone. And for me, like you said, I am thankful the fact that he's in office, and you see these many people of color now being put into the House and put into the Senate, and
judges,
things are changing, just like Supreme Court decisions are actually going against what he believes.
Exactly.
And that is showing a shift. And for me, these are discussions that we have to bring to the forefront, because they are important. The same concerns that you have, I have. Sometimes maybe the tone of how we say it is different, but the message is the same. We realize over time, because maybe 5, 10, 15 years ago, if we had these same concerns, we didn't have the information brought to us to let us know what really is happening. Because I tell people is that, when you have many news channels telling you exactly the same information, that's something to look at. When you have mainstream media just giving you one equation, another one's giving you another story, and another one's giving you another story. But sometimes you just got to look at the proof in the pudding. When they're talking about someone, about what this person said, just go straight to what the person said.
Right.
Like, listen to exactly what they're saying.
Exactly.
See, for me, and I tell people, honestly, when it comes to mainstream or media itself, I do look at CNN, and besides CNN, I look at the Young Turks. That is 2 media sources I do look at. I also look at Fox News to see what they're saying.
Correct.
What is the issues? Because I started noticing, especially when we were having the Black Lives Matter protests, especially in New York, and they were doing, when we were calling the looting and Antifa. In reality, I want people to know this. Antifa, again, is anti-fascist. What we had were people that were not a part of that organization, who just wore black, the same uniforms that people who call themselves Antifa wear. It's not hard to say, I'll put something black on and choose to do what I want. And the fact is, I was seeing, I have video and visual on my Instagram of there was a protest in the middle of my street, and having to see police officers talking to people. The people were just as passionate, just as well as they were passionate. The thing is, a lot of people have to understand, with that looting I did see on Fox News, was there was a big misconception. What they were putting out information was from years ago of footage. What I started seeing. Because a lot of times when you're putting out media, a lot of times we're just told to trust it. We're told to see it for the face value.
Right.
There was stuff from Fox News I'm seeing of when they were doing protests in highways of talking about kill pigs. That was from 5-6 years ago. They're not showing what's happening now. What I do love about CNN specifically is that they will correct themselves when something's wrong, but also they do have White House advisors on their shows to talk about their message. So it's not that they're shutting you out. A lot of people on the, not even just Republican, on the right-wing side say, oh, CNN is biased. Well, they can't be too biased if they're allowing the people you respect and love to come on the platform and still talk. No matter if it's credible information or not, you're allowing those people to come on the platform and to speak their truth.
But I'm going to push back. And I was a big CNN person, 100%, you know, especially when Obama was becoming elected. I was like, you know, I kept it on CNN. But then I realized, I was like, wait a minute. Trump is bringing a lot of this stuff on himself, but CNN a little extra with it. They're a little extra on the Trump bashing. Like, come on, like, we get it. But for me, it was a turnoff. Like, you started to lose credibility. You know, you got Don Lemon, you know, Anderson Cooper, who are huge names. You know, that's the CNN version of Hannity, you know, and all of them. You know, I'll listen to Rush Limbaugh, Hannity, I mostly listen to NPR, is where my main news source comes from, NPR. But I'll check CNN out, I'll check Fox out. I listen to, like you said, I listen to everybody. And you know, if you start seeing a common thread, that's something to see. But CNN, I realize, is really just as bad as Fox as far as the. I personally think they are biased. I agree with you that they may put the person on their show, but they're gonna have a little slant and a little attitude toward that person a little bit, you know, which, you know. I don't trust CNN, MSNBC, none of the big ones. I'm like, I don't care what, you know, I'll look at like Al Jazeera, something like that. NPR is my main source of news when I'm listening in the car. I'm always NPR. And I even recognize how they lean left. You know, they're my favorite, but I'm like, you know what, they still putting their little elbow in on things. They're not completely neutral like they like to come across, you know.
But I understand. What I would say to that note is then when you say that they're bashing Trump, is it more that they just bring into the forefront the things that are more wrong? Because again, what we see when people say he's doing so much good, I want to see it. Like, I really want to see it. And people have to understand is that Trump is not the one just putting all of these executive orders out by himself. It takes a lot of people under him to inform him, hey, you should be doing this. No matter what president they always have a team that is informing them of this is the right decision to do, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. But it's up to them to enact that. For me, I am listening. We may see difference in that, but for me, again, I have seen more wrong done with him than many others in my lifetime. And it's not just so much the legislation, it's the overall, like the tone, the language.
Posturing.
Yes, because I could never, if I have a child now, it'd be very hard to tell them at all, I want you to be like this president. I can't. I could never. It would go against my moral compass. You know, for me, I appreciate people that can say they can listen to different news outlets to understand information. Great. For me, just as well as I listen to CNN, I listen to Young Turks, I listen to MSNBC, I'll listen to Fox News with people that I don't personally go on it. I'm listening in with people who have told me or even with relatives that I know who watch it. I'll sit there and watch it and look at the information, but also people like Hannity, people like Tucker Carlson. Oh, it's the inflection, the dialogue
Right.
that you're using. You know how to hit home. You know what words to use.
Exactly.
And
They do it all the time.
and it's every news outlet knows how to do that because they gauge their audience. But a lot of times the news that they're putting out, you can kind of just take out them as the middleman and say, let me listen or know straight from the source. If they were saying something, let me hear it. And let me make my own opinion from that. Because no matter what news outlets we use when it talks about Black Lives Matter, a lot of times we're listening to news outlets that say what they saw and what they heard. But let's go to the source. Let's go to the person that they're talking about, whether it be an activist or an organization owner, a moderator, and let's talk to them. Because then,
speaking of which, what's your views on the Kanye West?
Oh man, for me personally, I can never vote for a person like that. And I mean is this, especially with a person who is dealing with mental health issues, who has a history and has said he is bipolar, and now members of his own family saying this is one of his episodes. I understand that he has his own view, and he was saying this in 2015 about him wanting to become president. But you have to understand that the choice words you use have an impact later on, because if you were so passionate about it, you would have been taking those necessary steps since 2015. You would have been putting your name in there's a certain organization that you have to put your name in to be put into the conversation. For me, I don't take it serious at all. I think a lot of people too say, I heard this from Issa Rae too. I'm not saying she said it about him, but she said, if it's black, I'm with it. If it's something black, I'm on it. But especially when it comes to Kanye West, from a person that encouraged everyone to listen to Trump and make America great again, and I always tell people, when was America ever great? Tell me that, and then we can have a deeper conversation. But
what do you know about him actually admitting that he just did that to get people out of jail? Do you know about that? He admitted to
Kardashian.
Well, his friend GLC, one of his rap friends, had a conversation with him when he was just on a podcast with Van Lathan, who worked for TMZ, right?
Yes.
So this was like a month ago. GLC said, look, Kanye said to me, look, you know why I put that hat on, right? He's like, I couldn't get a meeting with the president to get that lady released from jail until I put that hat on. You realize that, right? So he was saying that, look, Kanye was basically using Trump to try to get these people out of jail. Now, my friends, they make fun of me because I'm a Kanye rider. I ride for Kanye. Now, I don't want him to be president because I want him to focus on his family and continue to be a good father, be a great husband. He just became a billionaire. Focus on that. I don't want him to be a president because I don't want all that stress on him to affect his family and his kids' life.
Yes.
So I don't want that. But for me, I was saying back in the day, even if I was focused on, like you said, I was like, wait, what's happening here? I was like, Kanye is trying to get people out of jail. I was like, even if he really likes Trump, even if he really loves Trump, we as black or brown people, we should finesse that opportunity, kiss Trump's ass if it's going to get 20,000 of our black and brown people out of jail. And I've said kiss Trump's ass, like run game on Trump, like he was doing. Oh, Trump, I love you. Because that's all Trump needs. Trump he's an egomaniac. You say some good words to him, oh, he gonna be your boy, right? That's one thing you do know about Trump.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wait a minute. If even if he believed in Trump, if we could get behind Kanye specifically just to create legislation that Trump will commute 10,000 sentences every 2 months of non-violent drug offenders. Why wouldn't we want to do that? Like we suffering in my opinion, as I'm gonna speak for Black people, we were suffering from our own ego. We like, how the hell can you put on a KKK hat like that? And we couldn't see, in my mind, the opportunity that was right there. You know, he got Trump actually, he did an executive order. He did the First Steps Act, which helps to get people out of jail because of it, Kanye and Kim, right? Which is, I mean, he can get some props for that. Obama didn't do that.
Yeah, and to retrospect that, for me, the same person in Kanye who said George Bush doesn't care about Black people, and he talked about having self-respect and standing your truth, and then, like you said, in a sense, kiss somebody's ass to get something that should have been enacted a long time ago. We have to realize is that when most people who wear those hats of Make America Great Again, when I then ask the same people, if you love this message so much, can you tell me when it was great? And you can't give me a definitive answer. That means you don't understand what is the message.
Right.
That means, for me, I get, like, Kim Kardashian is responsible for helping other people get out of jail. If that means she had to kiss someone's ass, had to suck up to somebody, that's sad. I mean, it should be something that, or it should be just a bipartisan agreement.
Right. And I agree with you 100%. You shouldn't have to kiss someone's ass or suck up to them. You know, and I'm the last person to kiss someone's ass per se, because I many times, like with Kanye, I'm one of the only few people I know that's going to defend Kanye. And I would still do it, period. You know, so I'm not kissing nobody's ass. However, I'm just saying, look, let's not get caught up in our own ego. Why, if we can only just see through the bullshit and be like, wait a minute, Kanye's on to something. We can use this as a Trojan horse to get our people and get fathers back to their children, get mothers back to their families. If that means we got to soup Trump head up, make him think he's the best president ever, wouldn't that be worth it? I mean, I know it's not the best. I know that's not the best scenario. Trump should just want to do it on his own, but that's okay. What's wrong with running game on him real quick? Running some game, you know?
We want to run game, but we're trying to run game with somebody like Kanye that has mental health issues, and that can be one way this day, and then another day, like now, I don't support him. So then now what it does is, I want to run for president. I do not support Trump anymore. I take the hat off. So then it kind of is like almost defeating the purpose of, we're putting this on to try to run game, because then now what is Trump thinking?
Well, it don't matter if Trump already created and inked a legislation to commute these sentences. So once that's done, take off the hat, be like, aha, got you good, you know, that's what you get. We got our Black people out and brown people out. Let's kick it. I mean, you're right. I mean, Trump may be like, damn, I got played. Well, it's too late. You already signed the shit. Yeah. You know, so again, I'm not a Trump supporter, but I was like, wait a minute, we could use this opportunity. And for me, it was such a sad thing to see Black people go so hard in on Kanye. It was like a lynching. It was like a public lynching, a mob lynch of Kanye. For what reason? Like, there's been plenty of rappers who are way more contributors to the degradation of the Black community. Jay-Z, T.I., Lil Wayne, they all endorse selling drugs, doing drugs, killing people. And that's why some of the youth do it to this day, because the rappers are doing it or singing it. Kanye ain't never been about that. But this is another thing I got an issue with. We are going so hard in on Kanye. But what about these other rappers who've done way worse things to the Black community, even though we uplift them so high? Kanye has always been, he's still riding for Black people right now. Even with a Trump hat, he was like, look, Black people, we don't have to be Democrats all the time. He's like, I'm still trying to get black people out of jail. You know, even though he had the Trump, he's never not been for black people. But black people so hard in on Kanye, it's kind of bizarre. Like, why aren't we? Jay-Z should be. We should be more knocking down Jay-Z for the shit he done rapped about and promoted.
What I think would too is that when you had a person like Kanye that spoke about how slavery was a choice, that right there was one of those things of what are you really trying? What is the true message?
Go ahead.
But also when you go into terms of people like Jay-Z and T.I. and Lil Wayne, and specific instances of people like Jay-Z, that was a past life of his, correct? And then now you do see instances of steps that he is taking to help our community, whether it is in help with lawyer fees, providing lawyers for certain services, even his involvement in the NFL, how little or small. We have to start seeing is that the past of someone, we have to notice, is it a pattern that still continues, or is it a pattern that stopped and we grew from it?
Now let's talk about that situation, the TMZ, when Kanye said slavery was a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Now we talked about the media, right?
Yes.
So the media, what people forgot or didn't never realize is that when Kanye used slavery was a choice, when he was saying that, he was actually on his way of using that as an analogy of how the media locks in our choice in our minds like slaves. He was using real slavery to bring light to the media, creating a lock and chain on our own brains. He was using that as an analogy. People don't realize that. Go back and listen to the interview. He's on his way of using that as an analogy. Now let's talk about slavery as a choice. A lot of people get really upset about that, but I propose a couple things. First of all, Harriet Tubman, her whole mission was about slavery being a choice. That was her whole. That was her whole thing. If you told Harriet Tubman, I want to go back to Massa, she pointed a gun at your head and was like, you want to go back to Massa? If you do, I'm going to kill you right now. You choose. She did that. These are facts.
I just want to know where was that fact so I can look it up.
Just Google what I just said. Just Google.
Okay. See if you can I'll do this in the future, but the stuff you're saying, I'm also going to look up because I want to.
Yeah, look.
You know, so
my dad taught me this. He's big in Black history. He taught me this when I was young. He was like, Harriet Tubman would shoot you on the spot if you wanted to go back to the slaves, because that would ruin all the underground. That he would tell everybody, and the underground would be. So she was like, so that's a choice. I didn't say it was a great choice. I never said it was a great choice, but yet it was a choice. Now I understand the slavery not being a choice because it was such an indoctrined mindset, and generation after generation, you eventually it becomes a norm. And even if you're a slave, you don't realize you have a choice. I do understand that argument as well. But slavery was a choice comment is debatable. It's not that he was wrong. It's just debatable. You can make an argument. Look at the Native Americans. Slavery was a choice. They was like, you ain't finna slave our motherfucking asses. We finna try to kill you. And what happened? They got killed off. Damn near genocide. So you take the Africans and take the Native Americans. Africans, don't get it wrong. Africans fought there was many rebellions, but in large part, they were peaceful people and came. And then the Native Americans, in large part, was like, hell no, you ain't finna come to our land and start taking us. We finna kill you as much as we can. Now, they had a choice. The Native Americans had a choice. They could have been like, okay, let me go ahead and follow these white dudes because they got the guns. They're gonna kill us. But they chose not to. They chose not to be enslaved, and they fought back and thus suffered genocide. Now, which culture made the right choice? Africans or the Native Americans? Which, in my mind, I'm grateful that the Africans were largely peaceful people and survived and endured slavery, because me and you both are here because of it. How many Native Americans aren't our friends, mothers, or wives because they basically were genocided because they didn't go down without a fight? So I understand how slavery was a choice. It's inflammatory, but it's debatable on was it a choice or wasn't a choice? You know,
I think when it comes in terms of that, what we're hearing are different stories. What we're hearing is a story of that with Harriet Tubman, but then you're going even further back until when slaves were brought here from the transatlantic, and that wasn't a choice. That was something, people being taken away. I mean, you have movies like Roots, and those are just depictions of stories they've heard, but also talking to people now of my late grandfather telling me stories of when he lived in Virginia and he didn't have a choice of doing certain things. A lot of our family goes back generations and generations. We hear ancestor stories from other people, but when we're hearing a lot of stories from our own families and realizing that slavery was still around, especially in the South, that right there can make you have different perceptions. And for us, I think, is that we can learn from everyone's story. What we have to realize too, like you said with Kanye, was that you understood the message because you broke it down. But the way he put it out on a national platform wasn't received.
Wait a minute, I'm gonna push back. Was it the way he put it out or the way the media spun it?
But was it spun the way of whatever he said, did they put it out entirely?
They put his whole, if you watch the whole interview, he was just like, look, all of y'all, all these people for 400 years didn't fight back. Like, that seems like a choice to me. That's what he was like. He was like, you know, and I think or any reasonable person can be like, yeah, I wonder why there wasn't a super large rebellion. You know,
There was, especially in Haiti. Did you know about the story?
Yeah, yeah, it was boom.
That's what I'm sorry.
So again, the Haitians realized that they had a choice. And they're like, fuck this shit. I'm not letting this happen. We getting this out of here.
Yes.
Right? I'm just saying, no matter what, you know, there's several different uprisings that has happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know, of slave rebellions. All of them realized they had a choice. You can't deny that because they was like, wait a minute, I can either choose to be a slave or choose to uprise and kill these motherfuckers. Right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, it just depends on how you look at it. It's a perspective. Now, Kanye, when he said it, I feel like the media spun it so effectively that people just say, Kanye said slavery was a choice. Slavery was a choice. He just said, well, it seemed like a choice. He was willing for you to tell him and it wasn't, but it was just to me, it was spun in such an irresponsible way. And it was, again, it didn't deserve what it has become, in my opinion. It didn't deserve it. Many people are like me, just like, you know what? I know if I was a slave, I wouldn't, if somebody tried to enslave me now, I would go down with a fight. Right? Would you? I don't know. Would you, if somebody tried to enslave you, Diamond, would you choose to go or would you try to fight it? What would you do?
Oh, at this moment, I would definitely fight it. But let me also put you to a better understanding is that the times we are living in now are not the same times we are living back then. Realizing is that the people that were taken from places in Africa and abroad, they were literally just enslaved and captured and put into boats and then disseminated to the Caribbeans and elsewhere. And you had a large amount of people taking them captured and selling them off like cattle. We understand now it's the self-worth. And for me, like I will say, I don't agree with a lot of your opinion, but again, that is your opinion. Doesn't mean I have to agree, but I'm listening to what you have to say because that's important. Because even though I do not agree at all with what Kanye has said or is saying now, my thing is, especially when you're talking about becoming a president. So hopefully I did answer the question of I will choose not to be enslaved because I know I would fight back myself. I am not the next person, so I can't answer.
But you're saying back in the day when they gathered the slaves up like cattle, you're saying those people didn't have a choice. That's what you're saying.
What I'm saying is that for them, they did have a choice. But you also
what was their choice? In your mind, the first several slaves gathered in like cattle at the door of no return or right before it, tell me about the choice they had or didn't have at that moment. Did they have a choice, or are you saying they didn't have a choice
for me
to fight back in your mind?
For me, looking in totality of stories that I've heard, there were people that did fight back. And then there were people that went along because they didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know if they took me here and you saw my family with me, were they going to take me and my family here?
So you're saying you're saying the people who fought back, you're saying they had a choice, but you're saying the people who didn't know what was happening, you're saying their choice was taken away from them. Is that what you're saying?
And I could say that because for me, again, I didn't live during that time.
Right.
I don't know every story that went on.
Right.
But for me, I've heard stories of people that did fight back, and a lot of those people died on those boats. A lot of people were tossed aside because they fought back.
Right.
You know, and a lot of people.
Are you saying? I want to be very clear. The people who fought back, did they have a choice to fight or not fight?
Of course, they had a choice.
So
you're saying, and I see what you're doing. Of course, putting the correlation of saying slavery was a choice.
So that's all I'm saying. So I'm just trying to ask you questions so that because people at the face of slavery was a choice is very inflammatory, right? Oh, how can you say that? Well, then I just asked you pointed questions about the slaves before the ships and or on the ships. You said the ones that fought back absolutely had a choice, right?
Yes.
So all I'm saying, and I'm not saying that I tricked you to believe what I was saying.
No,
I'm just saying it's debatable. What Kanye said, slavery was a choice, is debatable. It doesn't mean he was wrong. You just answered yourself.
But it also doesn't mean he was right because it's about the context.
Right. And the context he was using was an analogy to show us how the media makes us enslaved by paying attention to the media too much. But that was derailed by TMZ and the media. That's what I'm saying. And anybody listening to this, or if you get this far into this conversation, go back and look at the interview and you'll notice that Kanye is trying to make this an analogy about the media. He wasn't trying to just say slavery was a choice. Drew Thompson said Nick Cannon did an interview in regard to Kanye's comments. The idea is that Kanye does not do a great job putting forward his thoughts, right? And what he meant that we need to stop using slavery as an excuse. Yes, exactly. Drew hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, yeah, he was so passionate. First of all, I think you still could follow what he was saying. But again, the media spun it so quick and so fast, as they keep doing to Kanye. I don't know if you listen. I've listened to every Kanye interview that's been out since then. He makes sense. He's not crazy. People just think he's just off the rail crazy. No, he's saying reasonable stuff and stuff that sound like great ideas. So I got you to understand and see that even the slaves on the boat who fought back, they had a choice. And my only point of getting you to say that is to say, look, when Kanye says slavery was a choice, it's not wrong. it's not right is debatable. But it doesn't, my whole point, it doesn't warrant the Black lynching that people are doing to Black people in particular are doing to Kanye. It doesn't. When Harriet Tubman lived, her whole mission was about slavery being a choice. She threatened to kill your motherfucking ass if you went back through and to the master. That was her whole thing. Period.
And that, I think, is just information that, like, you're disseminating here. That's information that me and other people have to also research.
If you research and find that out, how would that change your view? If you find that I'm right, just say that I'm right. I could be wrong. I'm open to that. Yeah. But let's say that I'm right. How would that change your perspective on slavery being a choice? Would it change your perspective?
It wouldn't. It would not so much change it. It would just enlighten me. Because again, information that maybe I was given when I was younger, and also in education in school, that further on, if I'm learning more information in detail about those times in history, it's always good to be informed and educated on. It's not about just saying I had one opinion and I'm rolling with it. I can have one opinion, but if I'm learning and educating myself on that topic, that's beneficial for me. It's not about everything in my life has changed. It's like, no, I have a new perspective on something. Because again, when you're saying slavery is a choice, what people are taking is that you're saying these people chose to be enslaved. No, they were put in positions that they had to choose whether to fight or to stand still. My thing is this. I can say here with our conversation is that it's not about me or you having all of the information in the world. We are both still researching and learning more each day. For situations like Kanye or celebrities, it's completely understandable, and we have to learn more and more about what they're saying, because either the media or not, it still takes that one person to give a message, and we kind of have to decipher it and see what really translates to. So for me, I think it's important. It's not about saying, hey, you're right about that topic and I'm right about this topic. It's about saying, wow, I found a new perspective on somebody else's thinking that I wasn't thinking about. Let me research it.
Right.
Because it's important that people see through our discussion, it's not just about, hey, this person's just talking about what they feel and this person should completely agree, or vice versa. It's about us having a common discussion on different topics and saying, hey, I found this out and I found this out. Let's research it and see what we find together.
I'm looking at, I just researched NBCWashington.com about Harriet Tubman. It said but several things, but it says she used a pistol to threaten slaves who wanted to turn back. And so I just put, did Harriet Tubman threaten to kill people if they went back? So let's see, what's another one on Wikipedia? The two men went back, forced them to. Yeah, but I'm sure you can find something about it.
No, absolutely. And my thing is this too, is that I want people to understand is that what your opinion is your opinion, because like you said, you feel like Black people specifically are so hard, but then there's also a lot of people of color and others that don't feel that way. So we have to understand is that there's always going to be a difference, but listening to someone that has that opinion is warranted and valid, because everyone won't think the same, but we're still trying to find a common ground.
Correct.
You know, so that's for me is like, I appreciate having this type of discussion with you, Jay, because we can learn from one another. Because again, so many people would expect that once you have a viewpoint or opinion on Kanye that maybe I don't, I'm just supposed to be so angry. No, I'm listening.
Right.
Because when I'm finding a new perspective, I may not fully agree at the end, maybe, but it's going to allow me to do my research. So then I can be more well informed.
Exactly. Well, this has been fun.
Thank you, man.
You like I said, I'm loving what you're doing. I love how popular you've become in just the last few weeks. I think it's very important. I think you're on your way to monetizing this thing. That'd be great. Get more interviews, bigger interviews. I think you do a great job at, like you said, listening, respecting, but also respectfully disagreeing.
Yes.
But without the emotion, even if it draws emotions, you are great at tempering it and making sure that logic comes through, clarity, eloquently comes through. So I think I'm really honored and appreciative that you've given me this platform. I fully support you. If you got any shirts or something like that, I want to buy one.
Just like I want to buy some of your shoes I've been
We
seeing.
we got shoes, we got shirts, we got this shirt.
Yeah,
That's our logo. We got a couple logos,
absolutely.
but yeah. You said you were 12 and a half, right?
Yes, I am.
So yeah, we was the first to do, and only did I know put our own logo on the Tom's shoes. I've been doing that for some years now, and they're great. Yeah, I don't know if you know about Tom's, but they're perfect to dance in. Oh, yeah, so you can dance in them. They're the best dance shoes, in my opinion. Yeah, so I appreciate it so much, and I'm sure there's other discussions. If you have another panel discussion about anything, I would like to be on it. If it's something pertaining to anything, really. If you think I can contribute.
Absolutely, absolutely. I appreciate it. And for me, at least before we go, like I always tell everybody, this isn't going to be this is the first interview, but it surely won't be the last. And at least before we go, can you just give myself and the audience just your contact info so people can search you further?
Absolutely. We Jae Phillips Dance Studio. Our website is www.jaephillips.com. We also have one of the largest, soon to be the largest salsa online program on the internet. So we have at least 80 videos that take you from beginner up through advanced. We teach, from crossbody lead to lady styling. We really big on teaching the lady styling aspect of functional lady styling too, not just the solo stuff. How to use lady styling within your partnership. We talk tons about technique. We also, even our program, we teach you how to do double turn techniques, all kinds of things. We have some bachata on there, but it's mostly salsa, but we will be adding bachata. But you can reach me at jaephillips.com. My Facebook is the name that's on the bottom of the screen, Jae Haile Phillips. That's my personal. My dance studio is jaephillipsdancestudios.com. We have 3 locations: Tampa, Sarasota, Minneapolis. Really 4 locations. We are all over the globe. We have over 100 Facebook pages globally. So we're constantly everywhere in China, Malaysia, Singapore, France, Canada, of course, the United States, the UK. So we're global right now as far as that's concerned. And yeah, so that's what we got going on. And I'm starting other projects that aren't even dance related. Oh, we are the inventors of trumpsupportersvsnonsupporters. We combine hip hop music with bachata moves, and it's the first partner hip hop dance that you've ever encountered, other than twerking behind somebody. You can dance partnership to hip hop, because hip hop, trap and bachata have the same beats per minute, 60 to 70 BPMs. So if you heard of trap chata, we the ones who started that. Taxi dancing, you hire us to go out dancing with you. There was some controversy over that. We started that in the Latin scene. We stole it from the ballroom scene, but we started that if you see any taxi dancing going on, we started that. Just putting that out there. Yeah, but other than that, thank you for everything, and I appreciate it. And another shout out to my students and my faculty, my teachers who I've trained. If you are interested in being a teacher, an instructor, I've been teaching for over 17 years. We're an award-winning studio. We've won awards in multiple locations, multiple years in a row. So I do know what I'm talking about as far as teaching someone how to teach, how to convey the information. I've developed many instructors who went on to have their own studios. They work for me, or they work for somebody else, a competitor. But yeah, so that we also have that as well. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I thank you so much, Jay. And again, I want my audience to definitely have a beautiful weekend. please, again, Jay, you and your family stay safe out there. Definitely, like everybody, wear a mask, be safe. And again, we're going to all come back to dancing soon. But, you know, right now we can wait because we all want to see each other again in a safer space. So I thank you again for this discussion. It's, again, the first, but it won't be the last. And we'll definitely have you on for a future panel. And, you know, just stay safe and hope all is well.
Thank you. You too.
Absolutely. Have a good night,
All
everyone.
right. Bye.
Bye.